Good Tuesday, everyone. Happy to be here with you. I'm Connie Hill. We are at Getting Started with Technical Analysis. Today, we're going to talk about something called trading a mechanical system, which essentially means we don't use a lot of judgment. We let the indicator tell us what to do. All right, today we're going to be using the DMI, and we'll get into further details here in just a few moments. I am joined in the chat by Lee Bull. Happy that Lee is here. He's going to help me answer your questions. So as you have them, go ahead and chat them in. Lee is a great technician of many, many years. And so as you have those questions, send them out. If you're listening to this on the recording and you have a question, you put your question out in the comments section, and then I'll go back and review those throughout the week so you can get your question answered too. Let me get something in order. All right, you guys, let's get started here again. Happy to join you here. I'm Connie Hill. And today we're going to be talking about mechanical trading systems. And today we're going to be using a directional movement indicator, or index rather, developed by Wells Wilder. And as we get into our session here a little bit, I'll lay out our agenda. I apologize for that little snafu here at the beginning. Let's go through some brief disclosures. Specific securities used today are for educational and informational purposes only. They shouldn't be considered a recommendation. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Now, we talk about different aspects of technical analysis, right? The study of the charts and seeing what perhaps, as we look at the charts, if we can identify what might be coming. Of course, we never know until it actually happens. Any news can trump any technical indicator. We've been spending a little bit of time on different areas here. So we're going to talk a little bit about trend identification in the context of using this directional movement index. So we'll talk about that. How do you use it? And how do you use a mechanical system? And of course, we're going to look at some examples. I'm also going to show you a scan, and we'll talk about identifying how to analyze the results of that scan. All right, so let's get going here. I'm going to hop out here. We're going to go to Thinkorswim. We're going to start out here. Now on Thinkorswim, my scan is being a little bit temperamental, I'm going to say. So I decided I would leave the scan up that I built from scratch, but I'll walk you through it just because I didn't want to lose it again and have a little snafu with it. So let's just go through the parameters here, and then we'll talk about kind of the details. So I have my last price. It's got to be at least $20. Your price level, you may vary in yours, okay? Then we're going to talk about, we're going to look for a DMI. There's a scan, it's under the study index. And we're going to look for a DI positive that's greater than a DI negative. And at this point, you're going, Connie, I don't even know what a DI is, okay? So let's flip over to the charts here and we'll take a look at something. We're going to focus here on this area, this pane that has a green line, a red line, or a black line. Now, the green line here, when it is above the red line, it means it's the dominant trend. And so I kind of have it color-coded here, green, letting us know, hey, this is a bullish trend here. If the red were on top of the green, then we'd be saying, oh, the dominant trend here is actually more of a bearish trend, okay? And then so for this particular stock right here, VST, the green is clearly above the red. Some traders might look for that crossover. And so let's see when was the last time this crossed over. And I'm just going to zoom in here so we can see the details better. And it looks like maybe back here in April, maybe around April 22nd, 23rd, something in that neighborhood, the green line went above the red line. So at that point, we'd call that a crossover. And whatever the trend is on top is the more dominant trend, in this case, bullish. Well, we've got the black line there, and sometimes I'll use that black line. It's called the ADX line. Sometimes I've used it independently, not really showing the DI plus and the DI negative, because it takes basically an average of those two and smooths it out. And we can use that ADX to tell us how strong is the trend. So I've got a little kind of legend over here for you that a DMI green is positive, DI minus is more bearish. And then if the reading is around 20 and starts to go up, then we might be identifying the beginning of a new trend, but it's not really that strong until it gets above 25. Okay, so those are going to be some parameters we're going to stick with here for a minute. So we are looking for, basically, we're in a trending environment, and so we're going to be looking for a stronger, something that's trending strongly. Okay, let's go back to our scan here. So now you have an idea, well, what is this DMI greater than 25 and the DI minus less than 25, right? So hopefully they're going opposite directions here. All right, now volume. I brought in our average volume here. Again, this is another study filter. Remember, it does not work in your live account. Oh, I take it back. It works in your live account. The study doesn't exist in your paper money account. And so when you're running these kind of scans, what you want to do is run them in your live account. And then if you're paper trading and practicing there, then just go ahead and bring the results of that scan over. Okay, it's easy to do. You can, for example, save this as a watch list and then share it. You can share it with yourself and open it up via the open shared items setting right here. Now, let me check over to our chat and see if we have any questions I need to answer real quickly here. Looks like we're in good shape. All right. Now, getting back to our scan results, you see when I ran this, I said, bring me in 200 stocks. I said, sort by a 1 month percent change. And I'm going to open up here this watch list. Earlier, I saved it today. Okay. And the results are more or less what we're looking at here. All I did is what said save as a watch list, and I gave it a name. The name I gave it was DMI and today's date. Okay. Because we're going to be using this list over here. Now, I have, and some of you probably have this, I use it quite a bit, and so do some other coaches, so you may already have this script. We have a 1 month return and a 3 month return. And that just is calculating the returns over the last 3 months, essentially, and the last month. And sometimes we'll do some sorting by it. And so I also brought that into my columns over here. I customized those, clicking on that gear. Let's go show you where the gear is. If it's, make sure you can all see it pretty decent, okay? Because it is small. Over here on the right-hand side, just past the very right-hand most column, okay, is that gear. You can click on the gear, and then you can customize whatever the fields are here. Okay, so I've customized mine a long time ago. I honestly don't really remember everything that was in there initially, but I have added some of these custom scripts. All right, I'm going to share those with you for those of you that don't have them yet. And let me collapse the watch list here for a minute and scroll down. Here is the 1 month script. Here is the 3 month script. I always have to tell you, any script that we share with you is not guaranteed as to accuracy or timing. Okay, and really you could use that whole URL and stop at the point that I start describing what it is, right? 3 month or 1 month. Or you could just take these 7 characters here. All right, take those 7 characters here, and then you could either copy and paste. All right, and you just say open shared item, and it just taken my screenshot there. So I'm getting rid of all the extra stuff I don't need. And then I'd hit preview, give it a name like 1 month percent change or 3 month percent change, so you know what it represents. All right. Those of you listening to this on the recording, you may need to back up just a little bit and pause so you can grab those scripts, okay? Because it's going to disappear here as we bring back the watch list. Let's go to looking at a result and talking about a mechanical system. Okay, so I have the watch list. I put it here in my columns over here on the left with my watch list. I have ADX. So again, I'm going to click on that gear. I'm going to customize. Here we see our 1 month change, our 3 month change. And then if you just start typing in here ADX, you're going to get the ADX, and it's going to give us a reading. And so we're going to use the results of this in addition to looking at the ADX score, which tells us the strength of the trend. Okay, again, 25 or higher means it's strongly trending. If it's 30 or higher, or 40 or 50, we know it is really strongly trending. Let's take a look at a couple of examples here from the charts. So I am going to sort this on our 1 month change because I'm looking for something that's trending. One thing about mechanical systems is that most of the time they're trending systems. Trend following systems is really what I should say, meaning they're built around the fact that the stock or the market, whatever it is that we're looking at, is trending. So if we get into an environment that's not trending that well, then maybe it's a little bit more sideways, it's a little bit more tricky for trend following systems to really work the way they're intended to work. Okay, that actually can be a shortfall or a con of trading a mechanical system. Maybe a couple of the pros might be you're eliminating emotion because you're not having to make a decision per se once you understand your study that you're using and make some rules around it. So we're going to start making some rules around using DMI. So we're going to use this stock here, FSLR. It was the one that came back as the highest move in the last month, okay, from this list. One thing I didn't mention to you is I intersected this list with the S&P 500. Even though I put a minimum volume of 250,000, quite honestly, we want things that are a little bit more liquid, so I intersected it with the S&P 500. All right, now we'll go back to First Solar. So if it's gone up that much, yeah, you could say, yeah, it probably is trending, right? No doubt, Connie. But let's look at what we have here. So our DI positive, look how sharply this has been going up here recently. Yeah, it's moving in a very directional move upward, and its value keeps getting bigger and bigger every day. The DI negative, the bearish trend, well, it's not really gaining momentum of any sort. In fact, that bearish momentum, we can see it moving down significantly, which is a helpful signal to see when you're trying to identify something that's bullish, right? That the direction that those two lines are going, it's nice if they're opposite each other. They don't always have to be, but it's nice if they are. And then, so the green line here is up at 54. Our DI negative is down there at 6. And then our ADX line that's showing us the strength of the trend right now is at 41. So that is pretty strong, and it's heading up, indicating that the strength of the trend is increasing. Okay, so from a trending perspective, we like to see this. Now, some of you might look at that and go, where was the crossover? Crossover occurred a while ago. So let's come back here to see when the red and green crossed over the most recent time. And I'm just going to zoom in here. And it looks like, kind of interestingly enough, the DI positive came down for like a day is all. And for a day went lower than the DI negative. And then it crossed back up again. And so at that cross, we might say, okay, the DI positive is the stronger trend. It's at a 24. But where was the ADX at that time? Well, the ADX at that time was dropping, and it was around 18. So if we're looking for a stronger trend to come into play on a value of 20 or higher, it really wasn't there yet. So in terms of rules, could we make a rule like this? Could we say, all right, when the green is above the red, we also want the ADX line to be moving up and above 20. Even 20 just kind of says, hey, this could be a beginning of a trend. 25 gives us more the indication that the trend is stronger. Okay, it's stronger significantly to say, okay, that's a strong uptrend, as opposed to at a 20, it's like, okay, a new bullish trend might start out. So we have our lines here. This ADX is clear down at 18. So even at that point, we really don't have something that says this is a strong signal yet. Let's see, I'm looking right here, okay, this black number, and I'm looking to see when it gets above 20. So right there, it gets above 20, indicating a new bullish trend may continue. And then pretty quickly here, it was only a few days, it gets up here at 22, 24, finally crosses above 25. And so in your rules, you could decide at what point will you take a bullish trade. We'll definitely want the green above the red, knowing that the bullish trend is stronger, right? The DI plus, and the ADX, you could say, okay, it has to be above 20, could be above 24, 25, something in that range, and you could decide. Now, some things that you know that you use your discretion on, we actually are not going to use. For example, you can probably identify without a moving average on here that we've got an upward trending stock, right? Higher highs and higher lows. But we're not going to consider those in our rules, okay? We're going to allow the DMI to tell us if we have an entry and a strong trend. All right, so that's one scenario, FSLR. Some of you, because of your discretion, might not feel comfortable taking an entry here on a stock that has gone up. Let's see how much it's gone up in the last 4 days. Gone up about 42%. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to not pay attention to that. And I get that, okay, because we're used to looking at discretionary signals like something like that. Let me just check the chat here real quick and see if there's anything I need to attend to. Looks like not at the moment. Lee's encouraging you to follow us both on, or follow both of us on X. I'm Connie Hill CS. He's Lee Bull CS. We'll post educational content throughout the day. Let's take a look at another stock here. Again, this came from our search. And VST. All right, VST. Again, it's going to be hard to ignore what it's doing, but we're going to look at our DMI here. So the green line is above the red line. So the bullish trend, the DI positive, is the one that is trending more strongly. The value of it, the ADX value is actually higher than that DI plus, which is just fine. It's at a 43. So it might be telling us, hey, it has been strong for a while. It had been stronger over here. It was up at 54, 63, 73. These are really high ratings for an ADX, okay? Very strong bullishness. And even though maybe it starts to come down here in this area, it's 69, 65, 60. Really, we don't, as far as a technical concern, as long as it's above 40, then we're really not that concerned that it's pulling back. But if it breaches 40 and goes down below 40, then we may say, ooh, a new trend might be starting to appear. We might be starting to see a trend reversal. So let's check it out here with VST. Let's see when it got to 40. So right now I'm at 41. Okay, 39. So this day here, the ADX did go down past 40. So again, it's more of a yellow flag, an alert signal, change. The trend may change here. It hasn't yet, but you can see kind of some kissing here. Kissing is not a real term as far as a chart goes, but they're just kind of running into each other, right? And when we see them separate again, if the ADX is in a strong position, some people might use that as an entry. Now, I'm going to ask you, maybe not quiz so much, but Because the green line is going up and it's at a little bit of an angle, and the red line is heading down and it's at a little bit of an angle, and we've got a reading here on the DMI of 43, could that constitute an entry signal? Could that constitute an entry signal? Based on what I've told you, I want you to go ahead and respond in the chat, and I just want to get your feedback on it. Want to make sure I'm explaining this enough. So if you're like, Connie, I'm still kind of a little confused, go ahead and tell me that. If you're feeling like you understand the indicator and you know, yeah, if it represents an entry signal or not, go ahead, tell me here. Your answer might be yes, it might be no, it might be I really don't know, or I'm still confused. Okay, could be any of those. Okay, Jeff, Ray, Gina. Yeah, you're saying, yeah, that could constitute an entry signal based on what we've spelled out. So when you're developing a mechanical system, you're going to decide what you will accept as an entry and what you won't. Okay, so let me click back here. So BJ as well says yes. Riceburg, you're good. I'm glad you're good. And Christian's a yes. Kathy, let's see what Kathy says. No, because the ADX is below 40. If I put my mouse here, right on it, it's actually at 43. And I may not have kept my mouse on there a long enough time, Kathy, so that confused you. Back here, it did drop lower than the 40. Okay, so back here it was a 31, a 32 after being in these real high numbers. So you're right. When it came below 40, that might have caused somebody to not feel comfortable doing it till it went above 40. And it looks like it went above 40 right here on this day, and it stayed above 40 since then. Okay, so I may have misled you a little bit, Kathy, not giving you the updated information when the ADX changed for today. Okay, Ranjit says not sure. Okay, Sandeep, DMI plus means DMI plus VE line making higher highs. Okay, basically, Sandeep, is I think what you're asking here, Sandeep, is if we're seeing the DI plus, the green line, above the DI negative, does that mean we're making higher highs? Not necessarily. You would need to really look at the price action to see if it's making those higher peaks and higher troughs. This is only telling us if it's likely bullish trending. Okay, so I'm going to throw that word likely. And if it's stronger than the bearish trend. Okay, and so those lines diverging, green going up, can't get my wrist the right way, red going down. Yeah, then we're seeing those two diverge from each other. And so that could be an entry signal. So for today, one of our trades that we're going to do is on this one, on Vistra Energy. And I want to put down some rules here. Okay, so rules, we need DMI positive over DMI negative. Okay, that's rule number one. Then we're going to look at ADX, and this is where maybe you fine-tune your own rules here. Some people would say, I want to see it at least above 20 at a minimum. And some might say, I'm not going to take my entry signal until it gets above 25. Okay, so this is where you can create your own rule, and then you might test it and go back and look at some charts and see if you would feel comfortable taking a trade when the ADX line is at 20. And if you look through that and you're like, it's not the strongest, as I go back and look at different charts, and then you might fine tune your range. So for our rules today, let's go with above 25 on a bullish trend, DI positive above DI negative, and that ADX above 25. Okay, that is going to be our rule. We're not going to look at trend here. It's going to be so hard. We're so used to using our discretion to make decisions. And in this kind of mechanical system, we're not using discretionary measures. Okay, we're really focusing on that DMI. So as far as an entry goes, in this account, we can allow ourselves, it's kind of typically a $150,000 account. We're willing to risk about $750 per trade. Well, what would be our exit here? Okay, it's always good to define your exit and your entries. In fact, I should have put on here entry, and then we'll say exit. The exit rule will be, we're going to take note. We're going to call it a yellow flag if we see DMI, or I take that back, ADX below 40 and dropping. Okay. At that time, one thing we may notice is that maybe the DI negative starts to become the stronger trend. That's possible. Sometimes when it is reversing trend, one thing that we're going to find is sometimes that ADX line rather actually just kind of floats around here. It's kind of below 20. And it's really not until it gets above 20 that there's a concern. But as far as exiting, we're also going to look for a cross. Okay, we're going to look for that green to cross down below the red. And as long as it hasn't done that, we're going to stay in the trend, although we're going to put up a yellow flag if ADX goes below 40, because that may be an indicator the trend is weakening. All right, if it's up here in these high numbers, like this was what? This was 73, and it was dropping a little bit, 69. That's really not enough to get concerned about. When it drops below the 40, that's when we get concerned. All right. Knowing that, how do we put a stop on this? We can't really put a stop because we have to observe the signal in the chart. And I'm also going to say you might want to do that at the close of the day as opposed to the beginning of the day. Okay, now it doesn't have to be, it can be your own rule. You can decide on your own rule. Can it happen intraday? Can it happen at the end of the day? You get to decide when that is. So we're going to put in a trade, but we're not going to put in a stop loss. And we're going to look at it every single day. And as long as the green's above the red, we're happy campers. And if ADX starts to slide down below 40, then we're going to get concerned and be watching for the crossover of the red going above the green. Okay, that's what we're going to look for. So if we're willing to risk $7.50 per trade, we're going to have to guess. We're going to have to totally guess at where our risk may lie. You know, I imagine if the price of the stock dropped down here to 80, I'm going to guess, although we don't know, right? It would have to actually happen for us to know that the ADX line is below 40 and that the red and green are coming at each other, getting ready to cross again. Now, I don't know if that really is what it would look like then. But in order to help us have some sort of discipline, some sort of an exit, let's do this. Let's take $80 from the price of the stock that we'd be getting in, 105.74. So 105.74 minus 80 could potentially give us risk quite a bit. Okay, some of you might not feel comfortable with that $25 a share, but I just want to put a number in there for how many shares we should buy so we're not over purchasing. Okay, so if we have risk of about, I'm going to round that up to $26. So if we have $7.50 divided by $26, we can do 28 shares. Okay, your rules might be more strict than that. Your rules may say, and your guess might have something to do with your testing your mechanical system to see where you might feel comfortable. Okay, I'm doing an estimate that is basically a 25% discount the price of what the stock's running right now. All right, on our trade tab, we are just going to buy it. We're going to get 28 shares. And we're going to look to get in at whatever the current price is right now. And maybe we'll try to get a little bit towards the midpoint. Sometimes paper's money is nice to us and will let us get in at the midpoint. Sometimes we have to go back and change it. All right. Let me look at our chat. I think we're in good shape. It sounds like we just got filled. And I'm noticing in our chat, there is a survey. Now, those of you that have joined us or been joining us for a long time know that sometimes we send out a survey and we ask for your cooperation. As coaches, we really appreciate when you will fill the survey out for us, okay? It's super easy. I'm okay with easy surveys. Okay, 2 questions on a scale of 1 to 10. Just rate what your feelings are. 1 is on the very low end, 10 is on the high end. Okay, so I love it or I hate it type of thing. And then there's 2 questions. If you want to give us an answer, be great. I also encourage you to use it as a place to communicate something with me that maybe you're interested in or maybe struggling with, because then maybe I can add something to one of our classes based on that feedback. If you're saying, I'm really having a hard time getting stopped out using a trailing stop loss, great, tell me about it. I can incorporate this. Now, I will be substituting in this class off and on this summer, and so I would take that into consideration the next time I teach the class. All right, so I'll remind you at the end to please fill out the survey, and Lee will post it a couple more times so that you can have access to it. Just click on that link before you leave, either when our class is over, if you need, just whenever it's time for you to leave. Okay, appreciate you doing that. All right, let's go back. Let's do a little bit more analysis here. Now, I think this next chart you're going to find quite interesting. Okay, coming back in our scan is Nvidia. What is Nvidia's ADX value? 21. And yet we're looking at a stock that has been up 28% in the last month and 37+% in the last quarter. So it's really a little bit interesting. That green line is quite positive, right? I mean, it's a sharp angle up. The red line is a sharp angle down. So we know the DI positive is trending much stronger than DI negative. But yet the ADX line is shy a little bit, right? It's at 2151. How would you interpret this? According to the rules that we've set out, we've established here, let's go back to them. Is the DI positive above the negative? Yeah, it is. This is where it's going to depend on your rules. Where is the ADX? Okay. It had been up here really high, right? And then let's see where it dropped below 40. So along here, we've got 50s, 51, 49, 43. We're getting close. All right, 39 on this day is where it drops below the 40. And so again, we have yellow flag, pay attention, and we might be concerned they're going to cross. What happened like right after that? They crossed. And the red went above the green for a short period of time, right? Went above it, went down, then went above it again. So kind of a more bearish trend was a little bit more dominant then, but because the red line was on top of the green line, but the ADX line here was in the neighborhood of 26 and some change is what it was back here, 25. So kind of interesting. When did it cross over most recently? The most recent crossover looks like it took place here on May 3rd. Now, you might say, well, that's great, Connie. I would have liked to have known this on May 3rd, right? We hadn't been talking about it yet. However, at that time, look at that ADX line was only at 18 and it was headed down. So really, even though DI positive was a stronger trend, the ADX says, yeah, but it wasn't that strong. Okay, now we get in a situation here where just recently it crossed above 20. Let's see if that was, I guess that was today that it crossed. Friday was an 18 reading. 18.5, and today it went above 20. So if your personal rules say, okay, I'm looking for ADX above 20, and that's my go signal, and we see the DI plus and the DI minus going opposite directions, some people might feel comfortable to say, okay, I'll take it at a 20, the ADX at 20. Okay. Again, we're gonna do a paper trade on this, okay, based on that ADX. And keep in mind, this trade is intended to be kind of a trend trade where we're hoping to ride the peaks and the pullbacks until we get a crossover. And we're hoping that lasts a long time. We never know how long it's going to last, but it's not typically going to be a short-term swing trade. Okay, it's intending for us to maybe trade the trend as it continues to progress and go up, as long as it doesn't weaken too far. Okay, So here again, we would have to really be guessing where would they cross again. We don't really know. One thing that I find interesting here, I'm just going to go back to where it crossed, the ADX crossed 20. Actually, I should go where it crossed 40. It's right there. Crossed 40, went to 39 on that day. But it took a while. Well, no, it didn't take very long before they crossed over. You could take the distance there. It's really just a guessing game, right? How much would this need to drop in order for those to cross again? We just don't know. So again, I'm just going to go about, well, to say 25% below the value of whatever the price of the stock is now, to build in that kind of stop zone. In this scenario where we're only risking 750, we may not be able to borrow many shares here. Although Nvidia, many of you know, is going to have a 10-for-1 stock split coming up. It's going to be the 6th of June. I'm not positive if that's the date. We can check that out. In any case, the shares will be reallocated at that time. The value of your position would stay the same, but you would get 10 times as many shares as what you would have now at a 10th of the price. Okay, so based on where the price of the stock is now, it's saying, okay, if we did the 10-for-1 split right now, the stock price would be around 112-ish. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take our 1127 times 0.25. That's going to give us risk of 281. This may be a tricky calculation here. Let's go 281.75 from, well, 281.75. And if we have 750 divided by 281, I think we're going to be able to buy 3 shares here. Only 2 shares. We'll still do it, okay? We'll still go ahead with it. Again, it's assuming some risk, so we can at least position size, even though we don't really truly know what the price would be when the two crossed over each other. Ranjit says, letting us know that the stock split is on June 6th. So next week, we'll see that. Well, next week, we'll see that. All right. Trade tab, let's go ahead. We're only going to trade 2 little shares here. We're okay with that. Want to keep our risk in check, and we might try to get a little closer to the break or the midpoint price, right? Sometimes paper money is nice to us, sometimes it's not. We're going to go ahead and hit confirm and send, and we'll put that in place. Now, again, we're going to watch it every day and see when we get a crossover of the red DI minus line crossing above the DI plus line. Okay. Now, one thing that you could do, if you're like, well, this kind of intrigues me, I want to, maybe have a mechanical system for a trending system, and you might want to try it out and test it, you should do that in your paper money account, right? That's where we always test things, is in a risk-free environment. I shouldn't say risk-free, in an environment that uses actual data, but not not your actual money, right? Is where we want to test out those things. Now on this scan, it's a really easy little scan to create. You could see there were only 3 parameters here, but let me go ahead and share this scan with you. And I am going to push this out to the chat, and then I'm quickly going to put it out here for those of you on the recording. I'm going to put it out here in a text box so you can see it. Go ahead and pause, and then you can just write down what this code is for that scan. Remember, all these scripts that we share with you are not guaranteed as to accuracy of timing, and this could change throughout the day, right? We would expect that to occur. So you just need to be aware of that. All right, let me check if there's any. Oh, Ranjit says, how do I get the DMI on my chart? You forgot. All you got to do is go to studies and type in DMI. All right, and there it is. And I'll show you what I did on mine. Is I changed the colors and I made it thicker. I made it a width of 3 instead of a width of 1. So I made the DI positive green, I made the DI minus red, and I made the ADX black. Okay, good way to maybe segregate those colors, but you could have it be any color you want, including the colors that they gave it initially. All right, very good. It looks like, okay, I think we're in good shape here. I don't see any questions at this point, okay? So just know in that kind of a system, we're gonna go back and be checking it. So this system, this mechanical system, is a trend following system, okay? And taking advantage of the direction of the trend and trying to trade along with it. It's intended to be a little bit, I'm gonna say not short term. Could it turn out to be a short term? Yeah, it could. Things could change on us, right? The trend could change. And then the other piece of this is kind of saying, okay, for your specific rules, what are they going to be? And then you just trade the rule. Trade it on the entry, trade it on the exit, do some testing of it to see. Probably the biggest thing is going to be where your ADX threshold is. Is your ADX threshold at 20, 25? I don't think you need to make it up to 30. 30 would mean it's trending a lot more strongly, but you could if you wanted to, okay? But those are some good parameters for you. All right. You guys, appreciate you being here today. Again, I am going to encourage you to fill out that survey for us. We always appreciate it as coaches when you do that. We read every single word you write in, so do our managers. And again, use it as a place you can communicate with me, something that maybe you'd like some help with or a topic that you're interested in. Absolutely fill that in on the survey. Now, coming up next is going to be a good treat for those of you that are trying to get better at Thinkorswim. And it's our Exploring Thinkorswim with Brent Morse. It's designed for those of you that have some decent comfortability with Thinkorswim and are ready for more functionality. It's more of an intermediate level as opposed to beginning level. So Brent will start here right at the top of the hour. Lee, appreciate your help here today in our chat. Appreciate all of you being here. We'll see you at the top of the hour. Bye-bye.